On the banks of the Hawkesbury River, west of Sydney, the residents of Pitt Town are putting their lives back together. Pete Mills and Cara Hackett have been through 3 floods since March last year.
You feel like you don't get on top of anything. We just started to get the house back into some sort of shape where you could live in it, and now we've got to start again, so it's kind of heartbreaking.
The couple knew their home was on a floodplain when they bought here. They prepared for the worst, but the most recent flood went up higher and faster than they could have imagined.
This one, I think, because it's so close to the last one, everyone's just angry that there's been nothing done to mitigate it. From our councils and our governments and the planning, it's hopeless.
One thing that infuriates many people here is the lack of a well-maintained flood evacuation route.
Pitt Town, say 12 or 15 years ago, was a little country village with about 300 population. And since the early 2000s, it has been developed and now has over 3,000.
Understandably, there's a renewed debate about raising the height of the Warragamba Dam. But once you add in the complexities of climate change and the likelihood that extreme weather events will become more common, there's growing calls for a major rethink about developments on the floodplain.
We're seeing these events, which we once called 1 in 1,000 year flood events or 1 in 100 year flood events, they're now becoming 1 in 1 year flood events.
Things are changing quite rapidly now with climate change and different effects and growth and the increased growth we've had there. And that continually perpetuates the problem.
In the north of the state, the flood clean-up finished months ago, yet life is anything but back to normal, with thousands still homeless.
All right, you ready? You got your hat?
My son's comfortable, he says he is. But yeah, it's not a nice feeling.
The city of Lismore, built in the 19th century on the confluence of several large waterways, has tried to mitigate a flood risk with a levee bank. But high levee banks or dam walls have the perverse effect of encouraging further development in the flood zone.
And what that does is it gives people a false sense of security. They'll be willing to invest more in the floodplain. And when that embankment is finally overtopped, there's more assets in harm's way than there would have been otherwise.
The local council is now looking at ways to depopulate parts of the city.
It won't be the kind of situation where we can just draw a line on a map and say, oh, you know, everybody inside here has to go. There's history. There's people's identities, there's industry, there's lots of assets, and so it'll be a long, hard negotiation.
Arguably, the city with the longest history of weighing up the pros and cons of living on the floodplain is Brisbane. Despite the building of 2 dams in the 1950s and 70s, much of Brisbane went under in 2011 and again last February.
Hi Diane and Tony, how are you?
Hi Melinda,
nice
how
to
you
see
going?
you.
Community worker Melinda McInturf is visiting households in one of Brisbane's lowest lying suburbs, Rocklea. She's spreading the word about a $700 million state and federal government scheme, which gives people living here 3 choices: raise their homes, retrofit with better materials and design, or take up a buyback offer to move out. How many people have said to you, look, I've just had enough, I want to move out of here?
Very few.
Really?
Very few people. People love the communities that they live in.
And how long does it take when you do make a decision, say we want to go, okay, how long does it take for them to start?
I'm not sure about that decision.
Yeah.
Diane Carpenter and Tony Fawkes have been living in their garage for the past 4 months. Upstairs is still uninhabitable, and although they battled through the floods of 2011, they're now contemplating the once unthinkable. This is a very difficult time for you. You've got difficult decisions to make. This is your home. But do you ever think there'll be a situation where you'll be prepared to move out of here?
Probably if there was another flood, I think. I think this one nearly broke me, this flood.
I'll go tomorrow, but we got to work that out. Like, we got holes everywhere, so the kitchen's got to be replaced. All the doors have got to be replaced.
While Diane and Tony think about moving out, Rockley's proximity to the CBD is still drawing more people in.
There's a house,
3 doors up, brand new.
brand new house built, three doors up, just finished a month ago.
And that kind of speaks to the scatteredness or the messiness, I guess, of this system.
It's not just developers wanting to push further into the floodplain. The Queensland Government is proposing to build its Olympic Village for the 2032 Games on an old industrial site by the Brisbane River, with the interesting marketing slogan, "Immerse yourself."
The impacts of that will need to be engineered. Whether that's going to completely solve the problem, time will tell. Mother Nature doesn't really live by the rules, so.
Brent O'Neill is a consultant to developers and governments.
I think there's an argument to say that Australia, in a lot of ways, has hit its limit in growth in some of the cities based on our environmental conditions. Doesn't mean we can't take more growth, but we need to think about it a lot more.
You have a look in the 2 spare rooms, they're just full of all the stuff from downstairs. So we're lucky in that respect.
Back in Pitt Town, Pete Mills is hoping a raising of the Warragamba Dam wall will better protect his home, and he's determined to stay put.
I've heard people say, they should buy back your houses, and they should, well, okay, you give me $2.5 million and I'll move. But they won't do that. So we have to stick it out.